Well, to say good evening, everybody. This is Otherworldly, regular meeting on Wednesday nights, which is affiliated with the Changing Times, Changing Worlds Conference.
And tonight we're talking about ritual garb.
Unfortunately, our guest hasn't been able to get online, so we're going to run amok without her.
Yes,
Yay. Until such time, hopefully.
All right,
Yeah.
Starwolf, your thoughts.
We're left unsupervised. The
Well,
possibilities.
for me, about the closest thing I've ever used to ritual robes is wearing SCA garb. Because, being a heathen witch and my persona is 5th century German, they kind of cover each other. Excuse me, I'm trying to... Where did my...
Well, I'm going to chip in for a minute here, Star, and point out I was thinking of you the other night, thinking about going to the conference, and I was also thinking about the stuff that I have half seriously as wizard garb. Because I've got my big gray floppy witchy hat, and then I have this other quite lovely
There we go.
cap
Found
that Another Stitch got for me.
That works.
Fit over the headphones. But I was thinking about it at the conference. I said, well, you're not going to be careful what I wear, because if nothing else, ritual garb it's a billboard you wear. It advertises who you are in a lot of ways. And be careful about advertising the wrong thing. They mentioned the priest robe, and then I was thinking suddenly our dear friend Kate Bell, who is a chaplain at Loretto here in Syracuse, and her best gig is she takes her white priest robe, she sticks brown spots all over it, and she becomes the sacred cow.
Oh my God.
That works. No, she is...
So
it was a Halloween costume.
Yeah, that was her Halloween for the Halloween festivities.
Now, I have to ask this. In her entire career as Sacred Cow, did anyone engage in tipping?
Well, I think the career as a sacred cow only lasted a short time.
Yeah.
Like once, and then she realized how hard it was
All right.
get the brown spots off her best robe.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, meanwhile, as we say, we're covering the topic until Chipicon can get back, if she can get back. So,
on one
Starwolf
level,
is talking about his ritual robes.
In many ways, you are looking, because of all of this, I'm never really out of my ritual gear. I have a few extra necklaces that I pile on for ceremonial, but because I work on the idea that I'm never actually off,
Too easy.
I pretty much am, well, if I do the everyday carry for the metaphysical practitioner, you'll understand just how much stuff I haul around in my cargo pockets. But like I said, I given that I work on the idea that I am pretty much always on duty, needing a ritual robe is maybe if I was doing a wedding, or a funeral, I might want to dress up something more appropriate. But for
special occasions,
for dealing with the gods, for dealing with spirits, for everything else I do, I'm ready from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed.
You get to sleep without being on duty?
Well, I'm on duty when I sleep too, but I don't necessarily need robes at that point.
Or 45 pounds of necklaces.
Actually, more like 2.5. I have weighed them.
Oh, God.
Goes up to 3 when I add the others.
I have the outline that in general, I wear gray on top, black on bottom, shoes as needed. And that way I can go to work in what to me are robes and what to my coworkers are normal work clothes.
Mm,
Bingo.
Oh,
which
I've-
makes me available at any time. But I also use a different shape of when I'm doing ceremonial. I have now come to pants because my house does not allow for skirts. I gave them up years ago.
mm.
But right now I'm doing a ritual that's all in whites. So it's white pants, white top. I've got a couple of different ones, so it's different styles depending on the temperature. And then a white vest that comes down to mid-thigh.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
And because it's a vest, the sleeves of my shirt are separate.
So it's
Now,
kind
if
of
I
like a surcoat type
yeah,
of.
and if I
Yeah.
wanted to do a particular kind of ritual rather than an all the powers ritual, I would, for example, wear a red shirt. The red would show on the arms without changing the over vest. And that way I could do the planetary colors without having to have a full set of tabards or whatever. It's
Nice.
just
Garanimal's theory of ritual robing.
yeah. No, I have a question actually. To what degree does a ritual robe serve as identity, not for others, but for you? And to what degree is it a magical tool, like a wand or a crystal?
For putting on a magical mindset, so to speak.
That
Yeah,
was a
pretty
question I wanted
much.
to ask too.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's it, Hyacinth. How much does that put our head in the right place to do the work we want to do?
Well, honestly, in my case, it was part of my training.
No, really? Okay.
Yeah, when getting ready for ritual, I would put on my cords, my cloak, and Athame, and I was there in
Mhm.
the zone. And then the next thing was the pre-ritual question: Are we of a mind to lock it in?
if you look back at the Roman Catholics, they've got everything in the world, in the religious world, ceremonial world locked down. They have all an inordinate amount of vestiture, and each and every piece has specific symbolism to it. Presumably, when you are vesting, each item, at the very least, you recall what it means. At the most, you have a prayer or an invocation that goes with the putting on of that garment.
Makes it almost sound like a vocabulary from which you can assemble sentences to describe what you're up to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was an altar boy for years, and part of the vestment process, yes, it's very much a working into a ritual mindset, and not only that, working into a specific ritual mindset, depending on what vestments you put on. And there's a whole process, a system of prayers and invocations that go with each piece.
I see we have someone back from Chipicon's part of the world. You're still muted.
We lost power for about 5
Oh my.
seconds,
Oh
and
no.
Mother's computer takes a long time to turn on. So,
Oh,
so
all right. So that explains a lot right there.
yes, I'm gonna go see how far along it is, and maybe drag her back up here, and we can do the show from here.
Okay,
Or-
we've
or-
been
Wait,
talking
what-
about ritual robes in the meantime, so
Okay.
but we look for your expertise to come in here.
I think it kind of was. I think
Not
it was kind
necessarily
of,
wise. Be right back.
yeah, but
I know
look at
that
I
just
look
like in
at
the
that
fashion
room.
world, certain clothes give me a feeling of power. One of my favorite things is these silk skirts that they make from recycled saris in India. And
Oh,
I have half a
great.
dozen of those. And when I put those on, and my style generally is boho, they call it now. I used to just
Yeah.
call myself a hippie. But my style is generally boho, so I ultimately wind up with, when I'm feeling power, I look like a hippie. So flowing
wrong with that?
clothes, silken type drapey clothes are what tend to make me feel more powerful. And if it's got long sleeves, even better. Yeah.
Mm.
I think it was what attracted to me the SCA to begin with, is I could wear flowy clothes with long sleeves.
Yeah, my partner performed at Renaissance fairs for years. She's a singer in a cappella group, Mischief Managed.
Hmm.
And unfortunately
I
they
know them.
yeah, unfortunately they broke up
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. But yeah, we do about 5 or 6 Ren fairs a year.
Hmm.
And it always uh just struck me how just like in ritual, it's like people this is a big deal to people, you know. It's like it might be like an insurance broker or something all week, and they go to these things and they just kind of create their own sacred space and their own sacred persona.
Hmm.
It's not fake, it's not acting. It's like this is a real part of themselves, you know, that they don't get to express in other places. So I really get that. So
Hmm.
um yeah, and especially with the clothes, it's like you know, it's like women who probably don't feel very good about themselves during kind of the mundane life. Everybody just looks and feels so beautiful when they're there.
Hmm.
That's really the amazing thing. So
I like what Patricia has commented in the chat, that she looks at thrift stores for scarves and keeps them in a gallon Ziploc with to symbolize the elements,
Mhm.
and is always ready to call quarters with the scarves that way.
oh,
That's a wonderful idea. I have a basket full of scarves. I have a serious addiction for scarves.
I am surrounded by them right now.
By the way,
All right.
looking at where Kathryne is right now,
Yes.
does that look like a perfect place to talk about clothing?
Yeah.
Yes. I
Yes.
mean, I
What a
think you
great
can actually
room.
see my
What?
latest sewing project over here. You
Mhm.
can't quite see there in the background dress dummy with a new dress on it.
So there we go.
Very
The
nice.
first thing is
Yes.
I noticed this rack of trim
Hmm.
Yeah.
and said, okay, well, a perfect place to talk about ritual clothing.
Well,
Yeah.
Kathryne, shall we throw it to you, or are you waiting for Mom?
We can throw it to me. I told Mother that I got on, and she said that she's gonna continue to argue with her computer and get on as soon as possible. And I just
Okay.
got an indication that I am now the host.
Yes, I have given you the hostess.
Okay, so I suppose the best thing to do is to get on with it.
We already are recording, so go ahead.
All right. Well, I am not Chipikan, but this is Otherworldly. I am Chipikan's daughter, Kathryne. My mother will be on momentarily, but I'm apparently the guest tonight, and I'm here to talk about ritual robes and, in general, the sacred powers of clothes, or the sacred power that can be imbued into clothes, because as we know, magic is intent, and you can do anything with intent, especially if you are doing it yourself. And so that's the general subject. Wondering how much I can cover before she gets here. Well, to start off, the robes have been a part of religious practices in almost every religion, and sorry, I'm just trying to change my view for a second because it's a little intimidating.
All right.
Well, you're doing
No,
great.
it's okay. There, much better. Okay. Just, I had whoever was the last person talking staring directly into my soul, and that was a little distracting for me. I'm not accustomed to public speaking, unlike my mother. Okay, this is better. So, ritual robes and clothing made with the intent. Yes, someone said power suit, clothes make the man. Something I wanted to mention was that I've heard various people who do various forms of shamanic work discovering once they got to their destination, as it were, that any items that they had on their person that were not created with intent did not transfer realms. So they would often first time show up naked because they did not know that they needed particular clothes. And that's not always the best first impression. And
For most of us, that's true.
yes, I mean, it would be memorable for a lot of people. I guess it depends on where you were going.
Now,
Yeah.
I have been to a number of rituals for a group that actually exercises the option of skyclad working for those who are of a mind to. But they're also, going in
Yeah.
what you're in for.
Yeah, there's always one.
You exercise
Having
the
your
option.
clothes stay behind is worse than losing your luggage.
Very similar, though. Very similar. Yes, I wanted to touch on the skyclad tradition because that technically is a ritual outfit.
Mhm.
It is just perhaps less of an investment than traditional vestments.
I don't know if you go in for things like body pants and that type of thing for particular
but
acts of ritual.
I know that certain practices, the Gardnerians come to mind, will have certain jewelry or garters that are worn while skyclad that becomes their ritual outfit, and though it does not cover the bases that one would normally expect, it does fulfill the same purpose.
Or for such, or for instance, ritual officers, I believe there is a type of abba or open robe that is a T form that is essentially open down the front. So it really doesn't exactly, it need not cover anything, but it does also bear certain significance, pun unintentional, as far as colors sometimes for particular rituals.
Mm-hmm.
If I may, we started rather more informally than usual. If we could, generally speaking, mute ourselves and raise your hands or comment in the chat if you have a comment or a question to ask, that would be awesome.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I've not been on the show before, so I was not aware of that practice. I think it's a very good one. But I'll keep that in mind. Now, I believe we were still talking about the various ritual garments that are worn by a lot of different religious practices. I mean, I think that it's absolutely fair to say that a lot of the clothing worn by by more established churches definitely falls into this category as well. The whole Pope outfit and the cardinals, even the simple priest dog collar, is a ritual garment to signify their spiritual presence, as it were. And it's it not only communicates to their congregation their role in the congregation, but it is also a constant reminder to themselves of their own role. And I thought that was also worth mentioning. And also, a lot of ecclesiastical robes, when you get down to it, are very similar to the robes worn in more pagan circles. And I think that is intentional. I do honestly believe that while we are, in many cases, but not all, trying to echo older practices, a lot of the pagan culture is being made up, not made up at the moment, but being created by the practitioners, and that's not a bad thing. And there's a lot of, I think, influence on the whole witch aesthetic, and the image that we have of what a ritual robe is, based on the romantic and I was saying this word 3 minutes ago, but now all my mind can think of is the new romantics, and that's something completely different. The romantic and pre-Raphaelite artists and their barely researched, idealized medieval and dark ages settings, where you would often get these druids and these flowing robes and these maiden sacrifices and not much at all, and flower crowns everywhere. And I think that that has made a huge influence on the cultural image of what a modern witch is. And that said, there is also other influences on people going out and saying, I'm going to dress with intent to signalize my role in society, and that role is I am a witch. The whole witch hat thing, which personally I have some mixed feelings about, that I did want to mention, but think that I'm not sure if this is the best segue. Yeah, as well as witchy movies and television, and the I think a lot of the witch aesthetic that we see now, especially at pagan conferences and pagan pride days, has been influenced by a image that really started fairly recently. I mean, the whole Wicked Witch of the West look that they had in The Wizard of Oz, while there are some, you can see some of the historical inspiration there, that was made up pretty much whole cloth at the time, and they almost went in a completely different direction. They were this close to having the Wicked Witch of the West be a beautiful woman in black lipstick and with a very elegant satin dress, and then they said, like at the last minute, wait a second, we've got color now, let's put her in green body paint, that'll be cool. And I have often thought about how the image of witches in general, and really my life in particular, because I spent a lot of childhood with people, rather nasty children, coming up to me is like, oh, if you're a witch, why aren't you green? Or, well, I can tell that you must be a bad witch because you are ugly. And just, nasty things that children say to each other. And I've often thought, if this cultural touchstone had been different, how would that have affected the witch culture instead? And it's just food for thought. Yeah. I also think there is something to be said about the very traditional, the robes that we tend to think of when we think of, this is a New Age or pagan practitioner dressed up in their ritual robes. I think there's a lot to be said that is a direct influence by those paintings that I mentioned earlier, because you've got the druids in the long. Sorry, I think I just heard my mother call, and I've been expecting her to come on soon. Mother, did you just call? Because I'm running out of vamping.
You're
Yeah.
doing great, though. You're doing great.
Yeah. So, I would like to, at this point, open it up to the group, because I'm sure that a lot of you came into this thinking that you had things to add to the discussion, and I definitely feel like I've already talked enough. Someone's raising their hand.
Yes, I
ahead.
was wondering just exactly how much of the popular concept of wizards' robes and hats and such, even down to the pointy shoes, were influenced by Middle Eastern outfits
Hmm.
That is a
or
great.
viziers and such. And in some cases, the Sinbad movie version of same.
Yes, I think that that is a great point, especially because you a lot of the time you will see the pointy wizard hat combined with a turban, which is something especially from that uh that ethnic background, that culture, and a lot of like medieval Middle Eastern stuff had that look, and you can see. I think that that is a excellent point, and I hesitate to guess, but my first thought is there might have been some part of just movie producers thinking this is going to look so cool, and a certain amount of let's make our villain look intimidating by making him look for it.
Well, if you might remember, not long after the Pre-Raphaelites, there was a large Arabian craze in art and a strong Egyptian craze. First from the influence of the French explorers and soldiers going to Egypt, and then from the 1920s Tut craze after the tomb was found. And so these, our jewelry, our clothing, everything was affected by it. And so those villains with the shoes and everything would, and the magic users would be in the artwork in our surroundings.
Yes.
I actually think it would be kind of neat to go back and revisit some of the things we talked about before you got here, Kathryne, because we started chewing on a lot of things that aren't otherwise being covered now. And one of the things was the discussion of to what degree your ritual robes become a magical tool like everything else, and that it's a material component that you use to focus your energy.
I think that that is a great conversation topic, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I was not here to hear it, and I definitely want to hear everyone's thoughts on that.
Because we did touch on a few really interesting things. So
yeah, and I'd like those to be brought up so that they're part of the show, and because I'd like to hear them.
Yes, they're part of the early recording, but in a rather less formalized organization of thoughts.
Oh God,
So,
this
by
is
all
more
means,
organized.
anyone have anything they want to bring up
Yes.
that they mentioned before?
Yeah. I just pointed at the screen to indicate the person who was raising their
Because we can
hand.
tell exactly where that pixel is.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I felt that.
As a Slavic witch.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah.
Embroidered in are all spells.
Oh, yes, and different
The
colors
word
mean
is
different
for
things.
embroidery is writing.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the word for embroidery is writing. You write a
Oh.
shirt.
Interesting.
And so
I did not
you
know
have
that.
these symbols. The diamond symbols is like the womb, so it's vitality. And four of them together like this would be like fertile fields and strength, bodily strength. But there's
Yeah,
lots of symbols.
repeated symbols
White on
is
shirt.
very important. It strengthens the symbol.
And in a culture that wasn't necessarily as literate among the vast population, having illustrated stories like that effectively on your clothing.
Yeah, if you guys remember my lecture in the fall about Slavic folk demonology,
yes,
it's almost to this day, there's something called Dvei which means double belief, since in Kiev and Rus, the conversion happened very top down. The Grand Duke just said, "We're all Christians now. Jump into this river, and tomorrow everybody's Christian." There was a lot of resistance, especially among women's folk who lost all their rights in their religious life. So a lot of embroidery motifs, a lot of domestic work persisted and kept the symbology. And with embroidery, it's also not only it's placed in strategic places, anywhere that evil spirits might enter your body. So around hemline, around the sleeves, around the neck, always have to wear a belt. Red is, and colors mean different things. Red is a protective color. Green is vitality. Blue is usually for guys going to war and stuff. Black is for black earth, for fertility sign. Oh, green is also health.
This is to remember if you're designing ritual clothing for yourself. Throughout history, fiber arts and women's work have contained hidden messages that were not meant for every eye to see.
Yep.
And exactly what Patricia was saying, yes. This is one way you can imbue meaning in the clothing you choose to wear for rituals.
Oh, let me see if I can find my Vyshyvanka real fast. It should be.
Yes.
I didn't take it, like my embroidered shirt. I didn't take it with me to golf. I just got in today, people. A couple of hours ago. Needed to help my Laurel unpack. He's in the muscle. Coughing, of all things. Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself, but I'll go look for a thing.
All right. I'm going to raise another tidbit that was really interesting, which was the discussion with Starwolf about the fact that for all practical purposes, he's wearing his ritual robes all the time because he's technically on duty all the time. Well, he's on duty 24 hours a day. He just doesn't wear his clothing to bed. But that was an interesting point because it led to a segue. I think, Gretchen, you were the one that talked about your layering to produce clothing that's both ritual robes and work clothes. So that was interesting too.
Could be pointed out that most of my t-shirts have been chosen for having some sort of pagan or metaphysical symbolism on them, with the exception of the goofy psychedelic animals that we get from mountain traders.
Okay.
And even then, a goofy pit bull could be considered a spirit form.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk about power animal.
Yeah, I could definitely see someone taking a goofy pit bull as their spiritual protectors. Like this is a fiercely loyal, somewhat intimidating, but to its friends very affectionate creature, and having that as a protective amulet, I think makes a lot of sense.
I was talking about the clothing I choose to wear for rituals. I did mention in chat one dress that I have, which when I perform a marriage ceremony or something like that, I have a black dress with the yoke at the top front is a gold metallic print. And it looks mildly clerical. It looks mildly impressive. I bought it at the thrift store, but it works. It gives the impression it needs to be.
Oh, cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 raccoon. The only thing you're missing is a moon that they're howling at.
When I wear my duster, I'm basically 3 raccoons in a trench coat. When I remade the collar, because I hadn't been aware that it was actually a leather-covered collar, one of my hounds was kind enough to inform me by chewing half of it off. When I reconstructed the collar, I put a few sigils of protection in there where they wouldn't be seen by anybody else. So that can now count as, I actually had the idea before Jim Butcher, so
Welcome, Chipicon.
You are not the only one.
We have
Ah,
quite the conversation going here.
I
yay.
work very hard at getting my robes to end up looking professional. So that when I am in public, I carry the professional image for the representation of my community. So often I've seen people who wear robes that are ill-fitting or poorly made or whatever. And I just feel that if you're going to be in public and you're going to be in the role of a priest or priestess, look the part, look professional. We have professionalism within our community, just as the priests, priestesses, imams, and whatever out there have as well. We need to look at.
Yeah. Now, I tend to wind up, I was mentioning before, I like the silk skirts that are made out of recycled saris. And I like, I grew up on an Ivy League campus in the 60s as a child. So is it any surprise that my aesthetic is what we used to call hippie and what they now in fancy fashion circles call boho?
Not at all.
So I have these sari silk skirts and I will wear, and I just remembered I have a denim shirt that I wear that I've started to embroider in all kinds of colors because it's wearing thin and has parts of the fabric that are actually wearing away. And I'm basically reconstructing the fabric with colorful embroidery.
Yes.
And that goes over whatever top I'm wearing. So I'm
It's
always
like-
ready.
Putting down a scene.
And that's what makes me feel powerful is these flowing clothes and the colors, and there I am.
No, I definitely think there is something to be said about the ritual power of clothing that was even mended with intent. You have made this more real by making this. Oh boy, a cat.
Yeah, my little familiar.
Always at least one.
Sweetheart. And I think that really is the next best thing to when you make a garment yourself and make it with intent, and to say this will continue to be in many, and from an ecological standpoint, it's even better because you are making something last longer. And frankly, I know that a lot of us have a respect for the conservation of our of our resources and our planet as part of our spiritual belief. So there is something.
Yeah, also, yeah, go ahead.
No.
Oh, nice.
That is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh
It's
yes, talk
also
about that, please.
vintage pieces. My very first Penzak, which is almost 20 years ago, one
my.
merchant was
Ooh.
practically, she gave it away to me because she only charged me $100 for it. She wanted to find a person who would wear it, who would not.
That much handwork.
It's vintage,
Oh
and she
my
said she
God.
had it since she was a young girl. And check this out, it's machine sewn, but hand embroidered.
That is
So
hours and hours.
there's power in vintage pieces too. Something
Someone
says
thoughtfully did that for ages.
yes. Like I embroider, but I could not do that much cross stitch. I'd drive myself insane.
You are very fortunate to have that.
That is
Slavica.
excellent.
And that's also
Every stitch has power.
And the thought symbols for lots of protection symbol. So I love this. And here's my own embroidery work. Again with birds.
What was that you were saying about not doing embroidery?
Oh, I said that much cross stitch would drive me insane. Gold work I can do.
Cross stitch, not embroidery. Those are two completely different
Yes.
skills.
Well,
Yes,
entirely.
totally different.
Well,
Well,
I needle it drives me nuts. I like to do free flowing embroidery.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, recognize those gemstones?
Oh my.
I
Yep,
actually-
all those gemstones
Are those all pearls there?
are from you guys.
I actually
Yes,
saw
real pearls.
Awesome.
I
love
saw one of
pearls.
your hats on Facebook
Thank you.
recommended to me. Is like, hey, check out this cool page, and I was like, I recognize those gemstones.
Mhm.
And I was like,
Yeah, I'm in charge. My group is Penzak Goldwork or Goldwork Penzak.
mm,
So
yeah.
that's what, and I tell everybody to go to Chipicons for her, for gold bits and bobs.
Mm.
Yes, the gold embroideries. Yes.
I heard the wildest rumor at golf that Cabochon's gonna close.
Oh, that's not true.
I
don't
know. I was
That's an odd rumor.
told it to me, and I'm like, "Excuse me, I just spoken to her last week."
Mm.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Is it,
Maybe they confused it with a different shop or something.
yeah, I mean, even at our own suppliers, there's like 3 businesses named Cabochons because it's a good name for a jewelry business.
Mhm.
So it's
yeah.
entirely possible they were talking about a
Oh,
different.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, my mind was wandering a bit, as it usually
Oh,
does when I
could be.
leave it
I was talking
unattended.
where I get my work stuff.
And a little side trip from ritual robes, but the idea of garments with power, not necessarily for public workings, but within your own personal space.
Mm.
And this concept, well, first of all, there is this crochet, right? That big blanket you made, Feather, that I,
Crochet blanket?
yeah. Well, that one that we keep meaning that we ought to try to mend the holes in, that I've used
Crochet
forever,
blanket.
or knitted, I forget which. But anyway, the
I
big
don't
purple-
crochet much.
No, all right, knitted then.
I have a knitted shawl I'm doing
No,
visible
I'm
mending
talking
on.
about my blanket.
Your blanket. Oh, the knitted blanket. Yes.
Yeah. So
It's
I
a
have this,
fisherman knit.
yeah, the fisherman knit. It's something she made, and I absolutely refuse to part with it, even though it's starting to unravel.
It's simple acrylic yarn too, so
And then I also have 2 garments that belonged to Jen's father, who passed 11 years, 12 years ago now.
14.
15 years. Jeez, time flies. One is the baseball cap labeled State Fair Security that he wore when he was on duty there. And the other is this dark blue cardigan sweater that's equally beat up now. And they just have so much meaning to me. And I really feel there is a connection now to him through those. So in a sense, it's ritual because it connects me to this man I really didn't know very well, but sometimes I feel like I'm channeling him. So I don't know if anybody has a stray thought on that side trip.
No, we'll get around to doing some visible mending on them eventually. My to-do pile is rather large, but
So is mine. But that's why these things still aren't done.
if you had any dexterity left in your fingers, I'd teach you how, but
We tried to teach me to knit a long time ago. We know how that did not end well.
yes, Chipicans tiaras.
oh,
Ooh, yes.
yeah, that's an interesting point, Mother.
Which,
Your tiaras. Talk about how
Well-
that has become a ritual thing for you, because this is something you wear in your public persona. You wear it
It- It is. Another thing I note, I realized, oh Lordy, about 20 years ago, when Alphonse was doing, my husband was doing the cancer dance, is I dress in order to confuse people. Doctors have a tendency to come in and take a second to decide what kind of patient you are, and then they can deal with you on that thing. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't come in and say, okay, these are those kind and these are those kind. And they come in and look at us and say, what the hell? and have to take us as we present, which was useful. I also realized that I dress with big skirts, shawls. I make myself try and look bigger. Being big can give you power. And if you look at the origin of theater, you see the Greeks developed theater as a ritual, and they had their people on platforms with great big masks and robes that made them look like bigger. They were trying to be seen in an amphitheater that held 5,000 to 10,000 people. But it gave you more power, and I think that that's one of the things ritual robes are trying to do.
That's funny. Oh, in Russian, well, we all know that the medieval ideas of beauty were woman needs to be able to survive a minor plague, a minor famine. So in Russian, the word for kind is also the word or kind of good is also the word for husky for fat.
Voluptuous.
There's slight variation of a word that they come from the same.
Thunder thighs and a big butt guarantees survival through
thunder
cold
thighs.
winters. I mean, and, you know, because this is the kind of fat that gives you fuel when it's 47 below Celsius. So yes,
And the crops failed.
and the crops failed.
Well, it increases your chances anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, of course, something we would like.
I like that new word kids are using, thick.
Thick.
To see.
THICC, yes.
Yeah. As opposed to thin, thick implies I like this shape. And
Yep.
although
I've heard
do
guys
have
saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention I have some concerns with the body positivity movement, only in that I think it's great that people are more comfortable with a wider range of bodies and more comfortable saying these are all beautiful. I just think that more emphasis could be put on. I consider two things to be incredibly true, and they're just how I live my life as an esthetician. It's like, first off, anyone can be beautiful. They cannot necessarily be the kind of beautiful that they want to be, and this causes frustration. And secondly, no one needs to be beautiful. This is an effort that people put into it, and it should be recognized as this is work that I'm doing for whatever reason, because it makes me feel good, because I think it's fun, or in unfortunate cases because I feel it's expected. But if you don't want to do that, you should not be forced to.
Yeah.
And these are two concepts that I think need to be more, the world needs to become more aware of.
Well, I'm going to interject my own philosophy there, which is that any woman is beautiful when she smiles.
Well,
just don't.
I kind of live by that.
Having come to this conversation late, I did call up a few images that I wanted to share. So I'm going to do that now. I know that some people may have to leave at 9, but I'm going to try. I did want to share these, having
having done the work.
having done them up, each of them has a different image that they wanted to that they will. Let's see. So let me go to share this one. And so here,
Ooh.
I really enjoyed this. I was looking for some examples of Catholic, and I found this paper doll. And these are different. It just great that they show different things with at the same time a sense of humor. This is another. Did I just close that, or I'm not quite sure. Are you seeing some Shinto priests here or not?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is some Shinto priests who have a huge variety of headdresses and robes that they wear.
We made that for my friend's elevation, and he has that hat he bought. It's vintage. I should send you some pictures of his elevation.
And here we have some Slavic. Wait a minute, I lost my Slavics. Oh, where'd they go?
Oh dear.
I'll find them again. This is the American pagan aesthetic.
Which I think is very influenced by folk music.
It might very well be described as boho. This one is specifically under Easter. These are penitents. I mean, we look at them and immediately think,
excuse you?
I'm guessing that's not in America then.
It's these are Catholic Easter penitents who are showing there we go. Here's our things. And here's a ritual robe, and you see he's got one of the things I like is that they've added the greenery. Yeah, you can see some people are choosing to dress up in what they think is traditional Slavic stuff, probably to the best of their ability. And some of the people are not worried about that, but even some of them have, are at least getting into some of the greenery. And I think that, but the simple, anybody who's doing ethnic stuff frequently is doing their best interpretation of what their ancestors were. We have to remember that many of these rituals have a magical component to them. And this is a Hopi dancer who's trying to, I forget which particular dance this is. I had it on the written, but I'm not on that. Here's another Native American. I think this is Lakota in a jingle dress. And this is a tradition, but it's a more recent tradition. Traditionally, those jingle things are made out of pieces of cans that they robed up. So that clearly is at least after they invented canning. But yeah, this is something where they have included the sound as well as the colors in the ritual garments they're wearing. This is another one I found for the Catholic thing, showing that the different liturgical colors go for season. Ordinarily, they might wear green, purple for Advent and Lent, both of which are before times, white for Christmas and Easter. Pentecost is red. I'm not quite sure what the symbolism is behind that, but
the red is the flame of the Holy Spirit that descended on the apostles in the upper room after the resurrection and ascension.
Well, there you go. Somebody who knows. That's a lovely thing about groups.
Yes.
And this is one straight from Etsy for sale to Wiccans to do very cool things that they, and anyway, I just wanted to share that. What time did this get started?
That last one, by the way, looks more OTO Thelemite than Wiccan.
Yeah.
Actually, it looks more Golden Dawn.
Oh,
it was.
Got
But you
Yeah,
know, when you're
I
selling on Etsy, let's face it, we may have several million cumulative pagans, but we as individual subgroups using the internet to sell your goods is a good thing.
Mhm.
To answer your question, we started just a few minutes after 8 in a
Okay.
somewhat informal and rambunctious way. And I did request that we repeat what we had talked about
Mhm.
for Kathryne before she got here.
Yes.
So we've actually
She
had a
arrived
pretty,
about 20 after, so
Great.
yeah.
we have been
Oh.
recording. Star Wolf
Yeah.
got
Yeah,
that
I
going.
saw that that was the first thing I checked when I finally got back on.
Yeah.
I think Kathryne said we lost power, and then
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
on like a flicker.
so, but you kept on without me. Oh, yay. Anyway, but yes, the discussion
That's what we're
I
here
wanted
for.
to have was, what is the why do we dress up?
yeah,
And what is the purpose of what we're doing? Did we get into masks at all?
No,
no,
No.
we did not.
Brief mention of them, but not really.
No,
Yeah.
no real discussion.
No.
I think, well, you gotta, there's a difference between the ritual robe and the just dressing up because it's a sacred, the difference between you're in sacred space and not. These things are important aspects of what you wear.
I feel that we could have a whole second
Yeah.
show about the use of masks in ritual.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that
I
makes
didn't
sense.
mean to interrupt. I generally thought you finished.
Yeah, and we have, the thing is that this is something we don't often talk about. We often talk about how to do it, but not quite so much why we do it. I know that Raven Caldera, I especially was impressed with his mittens. Somebody knit him that has a prayer in a spiral in runes on the mittens that they have knit. Like, wow, talk about the power in that. I like Sarah Mastros's beautiful gold and red thing that she wears. I'm glad Gretchen, I seem to have missed most of it, but Gretchen's robes are very impressive.
Yes.
I will mention some disappointing robes I saw. Lori Cabot's group in Salem
Yeah.
follows the theory that you wear black because it's grounding all the time. And she was at a Beltane ritual where it was probably about 55 degrees. And this poor woman was freezing. She was probably in her 70s or 80s at the time, and she was wearing this light polyester black robe and with a plaid blanket thrown around her. And I was like,
Oh no.
somebody get this woman some wool or silk robes, because
Or
something
at
that
least some thermal underwear to wear under them.
Yeah.
the
I was
first
just-
rituals that I became involved with were initiations, and we had the romantic notion of doing them out in nature. And unfortunately, the timing ended up being during the cold season, which is at least half of the year here. And so very early on, I learned the joys and sorrows of woolen capes.
Oh,
But we always were
woolen
considering the warmth factor before anything else.
Yeah.
that is one advantage, I think, of the of having the working with the ancestral. If you're going from historic things, it is more likely to have some level of comfort in it. It'll
And
be
it's all-
practical. You don't want to have big flowy things around a bonfire.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, the pre-Raphaelites and the romantic artists are very pretty, but they're not the best thing to emulate for practicality, because those were designed to look nice in a painting. And I mean, that's great.
I
if
win
you
some
want-
little things of a woman.
Oh, I don't think the size matters. You can look very good at a large size if you're well dressed.
Oh, yes, yes, but not in pre-Raphaelite outfits.
I think it could probably be done, but it would be trickier.
It can be done, yes.
It depends on the outfit. I mean, have you seen the Selkie dresses? Selkie is a brand that has started making these big, beautiful, flowy dresses, and they do it in a human range of sizes and on a human range of models, and they are gorgeous dresses at designer dress prices, of course.
Yeah, well,
but I could definitely see some of that being likened to that style of artwork, because it's one of the hallmarks of the dresses is they have these enormous puffy sleeves. And because frankly, if you are scaling up a dress like that to be on a person that size, you need to scale up all of it. And a lot of designers, much to my ire as a costumer, and this is what I study, just want to save on fabric, I think, and they do not scale up the entire dress. They say, well, your arms are about the same size, and so you don't get the volume to offset the volume of your chest, and it looks weird. Sorry, that's just a rant I have.
But that
As a
is one
woman
thing
with a
that I've
large
discovered.
chest and large body, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because
And
I'm
we
always
found in the
feeling like my
SCA,
chest is all anybody could possibly see. Because that's the only thing that's
Yeah.
highlighted.
but I'm going to say that in the SCA, I have found when you have a bigger person, it's like a bigger not palette, that bigger
canvas.
canvas, and a big woman can wear things that a smaller woman can't.
Yep.
Like wide trim, and wide trim looks, which much in period would be either you'd weave them yourself or you would embroider it wider. But a big woman can often wear things that a small woman can't, because they have the more space to display it on.
Something I've noticed in my own seamstress work, because I do a lot of Lolita clothing, like that dress in the background, is that when you're working with a pattern like that dress in the background, it should be scaled to the person that it's on, because if you put a large person in a pattern that's too small, it ends up looking like pillow ticking or perhaps a couch.
Yes.
And if you put a small person in a pattern that's too big, they look like you cut out a piece of paper that just, and it looks like you don't have the full thing there. It looks weird, and it looks weird in both directions.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about the flowing sleeves, though, and I keep thinking about rituals where people have candles all over.
Yeah, I would not want to wear this in a candlelit place, especially since this is nylon and would melt.
Well,
and I'm going to say that if we're doing ritual robes, wool doesn't burn, that's right. Linen burns, it loves to burn, makes a great wick. But if you
polyester and acrylic melt.
But what you don't want is what I have seen, which is people melting, having the
polyester.
Yeah, having polyester stick to the skin and keep on burning, which is something you do not want.
Kind of like napalm.
This is bad.
Oh, ritual napalm, exactly.
Yeah. Now, I'm not real fond of long flowing clothing myself, because of unfortunate incidents in my high school years with regard to a choir robe that I was required to wear on certain occasions, like graduation and such like. And I have managed in the same year both to step on my tails and get the sleeve caught in the handrail climbing up onto the stage. Nobody ever set me on fire, but to suddenly find yourself, you're trying to look dignified, walking up the steps, not realizing that your big long sleeve has caught the end of the handrail, and you suddenly come to an abrupt halt.
Mm.
Or
That's
pockets.
Another
Pockets are just
consideration involved
at
in
the
the
same
process.
level. A pocket is at the same. A pocket is a wonderful thing, and
Yeah.
almost
Oh, yeah.
any garment, but it's at the same level as a doorknob.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Or-
I just
or-
want to briefly mention, because you reminded me of it, that frankly, graduation robes are a ritual robe.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were
As are wedding dresses.
yes.
And I'm sure the mortarboard hat has ritual significance. There's always this business of flipping the tassel,
Yeah.
which has to have some deeper meaning there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very ritualistic, the whole graduation, because you flip the tassel and then you toss the hat. It is very symbolic of things. I'm aware vaguely of the history of graduation robes, that they started as this is just what all academics wore, then they only academics wore them for special occasions, and then it was only the teachers and people engaged in a ceremony. So they are, at this point, ceremonial robes. That is what they are.
Yes.
So,
But they all began as what scholars in medieval times wore.
exactly.
There are some
Well,
very
no, when
classic
I was-
paintings with the
I
with
mean, we
that
we
show
could
them.
look at the witch's hat, the pointed hat with a big brim, which was essentially popularized as a witch's hat at the in the 17th century by making fun, or in the 16th century as well, making fun of rural women who wore the hennin with a brim, so that they had the brim so that they could keep the sun off their face, but they wore the hennin because they were behind the times, and that was last century's fancy clothes. They were trying to say these women are hicks.
You don't
And
belong.
it was that was why they put them in all the pamphlets.
Well, that's what pagan meant.
I
is
also
they were the hicks.
remember reading somewhere that the witch's hat, that shape, was when women who brew ale and sold it at the markets would wear it kind of as advertisements, so you can see them from far away. And of course, independent women like that were not liked, and they brewed their ale in cauldrons.
There is an awful lot of reconstructed history that we are trying to I mean, I could do an entire show on the myths of neo-paganism, where we have tried to come up with explanations, many of which I have bought into. I have been wrong so many times.
If you started now, you might finish that sequence sometime next August.
Yes.
Pass it down to your children to solve.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it'd be a great class.
But I
Be a
really
great book we can keep adding to.
I liked I totally bought into, and there were cross stitch patterns for the 9,000 women burned as witches, that it was in the 70s, that we all believed it, and the Margaret Murray hypothesis of the sacred king. And I believed so much bullshit over the years that I hope that I am kinder when I am explaining, oh, that one's been debunked, to some of the excited people. St. Patrick driving the snakes out of Ireland is getting rid of druids. Oh my goodness. Oh yes, we have to share that one. Patricia is pointing out, you want to say out loud, or my book on the roots of Slavic magic? I'm so excited. I'm going to get one. Released today. I already checked Amazon, and on it, they didn't have it posted yet. Show us.
Oh, nice cover.
That's it.
Okay.
This is the test copy. It's got photographs.
Okay, so look for it on Amazon
I've
soon.
been researching stuff for the past 10 years.
I'm so excited.
It is on
Put the
Amazon.
pin on you, not on them.
Mhm.
Oh, my tinning. co-host, can you unpin this?
I am unfortunately not a co-host
Okay.
anymore. Well, I never got made a co-host.
Oh, sorry.
I was able to collect host after you left it with Hyacinth when you disappeared.
Well, my yeah, when I disappeared, but my
Yeah.
my mouse has gone dead. So
if someone could make me co-host, I can. What do we need to do?
Well,
I have to click something, and my mouse has gone dead.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, well, I seem to be able to pin her for myself anyway,
But
not for the general audience, though.
so unpin there and unpin.
But I figured the spring equinox was the perfect time since that's the Slavic New Year.
Yes.
There. Now let us get pin this and hold the book up, because I am very excited about this. Is a book I've been looking forward to. And just say a few words about it.
I have 2,000 sources listed in here.
Wow.
I've actually read about 6,000 sources, which informs all of my books that I have been working on, which is about 10 concurrently. So there's like herbal things. There'll be an herbal book, but it informs some of the information about the deities. Things. It's been ignored so long because nothing was written down except by the priest that then came in. But it's a mistake to think that there wasn't so much going on. And so there's been studies done by archaeologists where I draw information from folklore of flowers, and all this reveals a whole lot of information about the deities.
So yay!
And it kind of fills this hole in the center of Europe.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, let's just say that England, France, Germany, they looked at the Eastern Europe as unimportant, and that was that tough. We missed something that way. If it wasn't Mediterranean or the big Western powers, like, excuse me, things happen somewhere inland. But that was cool. Yeah, I'm going to get one as soon as Facebook as Amazon puts it on my feed. So anyway, I guess it is now long enough that we probably ought to, well, you had something else to say. Yes.
If you want to wait, and on April 1st, the hardback version is going to get issued. And that first week, the hardback will be the same price as the paperback.
Oh,
very nice.
So if you can, if you want to wait until the beginning of April, and then after that first week, the price will go up.
Ooh, now I have decisions to make. So I thank you all for coming, even when I wasn't here.
And thank you all for helping us fill in the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a lot of
content.
A lot of good stuff contributed in that vacant period, which was wonderful.
This is exactly what I was hoping for when I started Otherworldly. So I'm excited, and I'm going to. Does anybody have anything else to say before we
end recording?
Stop the recording.
Oh, I'll just thank you for having me, and it was really lovely meeting you all.
Oh,
anytime you can make it, Hyacinth.
Yeah, sure, you're more than welcome.
No, all I have to say is look at